Welcome to the City of Sugar Land City Council meeting for Tuesday, March the 19th. A little bit about our agenda tonight. In a minute, I'm going to invite William Ferguson to come down. We're going to do the invocation, and then we have our special guest, Orion, is going to help us with the pledge. Come on down, William. Lead us in the prayer.
Please stand. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight to say we just want to do the right thing. We want to do the right thing always. We want to do the right thing for everyone. We just want your wisdom. We want your maturity. We want your patience. Father, we just want to say thank you for the sweetest city in Texas. Thank you that you have continued to bless this great city. And I pray that our team here and our citizens all stay focused on serving each other in a great, great big way. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Ryan, come on down. Here we go. William, don't go away. What? All right, mic's on. Can you do it?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Get a picture? Yeah, let's get a picture. Council. We've got a special recognition tonight. It's for Commonwealth Elementary, #1 elementary, Commonwealth Elementary, the #1 elementary school in Texas. There we go. And I have Dr. Letitia Bogle, the principal. Letitia, if you could come up, please. And then I think we have Cindy Snyder. She's not here. Okay. Well, I'm going to let you introduce it. I mean, this is pretty darn exciting. So we've got a proclamation, but I want you to tell everybody what this is all about.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. Thank you for the recognition. I can tell you that we are very, very proud at Commonwealth Elementary. Our boys and girls work hard every single day. We have wonderful faculty, staff members, our parents, and our community all stand beside us. They stand with us, and they support us every step of the way. So this is an accomplishment that we don't take lightly. I am always pleased to hear from former parents and see former students about their continued success, because it means that we are doing things the right way. We are instilling high values, we are pushing forward academic achievement, and we take ownership of every single boy and girl that walks into that building. We wrap our arms around them, embrace them, and make them our own. So we are just very, very proud to be CWE Cougars.
Thank you very much. And we've got a proclamation, a certificate of recognition. This certificate of recognition is presented to Commonwealth Elementary for being recognized as the #1 school in Texas and the region for the 2022-2023 academic school year by the nonprofit organization known as Children at Risk. Commonwealth Elementary upholds their mission statement by providing a nurturing environment where all members are important and high levels of achievement are expected and ensured for all students. Commonwealth Elementary stays true to their vision by aiming to promote their core commitments that inspires character, wisdom, and excellence every day. Inspiring character by teaching, modeling, and reinforcing the fundamental components of the district's character education program. Inspiring wisdom by providing high-quality instruction that engages all learners, accommodates different learning styles, developed with student-centered mindset, and is presented in a challenging manner. Also, inspiring excellence by encouraging the display of a strong work ethic, exemplary character, leadership qualities, personal responsibility, and overall accountability. These components have propelled them to excellence. Congratulations. Council members, if y'all could come down, if I could get you to, please. If we have anybody here from Commonwealth, students, parents, if you're here, please come down. Join us in a picture, please. Speak. So we're going to take things a little out of sequence. We're going to move now to item number 6, workshop 6A, review of and discussion on the 2023 Smart Financial Center at Sugar Land annual report. We have with us our special guest, Elise Scally, the general manager of Smart Financial Center, and Jessica Hubble, the assistant director of community planning and redevelopment. Jess.
Partners, Elise with the Smart Financial Center, who's going to go over the annual report for 2023 and provide some insight into what to expect in 2024.
Thank you, Jessica. Hi, Mayor and City Council. Good to see you
Elise.
all. Lovely to
Welcome.
be here. And thank you for moving me forward. Much appreciated. Excited to present to you all what we've been up to in 2023. And here we go. So as you can see, year over year, our numbers are up in show count, tickets, attendance, and parking. These 2023 numbers rank as the third best year in the building's 7-year existence, only behind years 1 and 2. So a great achievement as we're in this was year 7, to get kind of back to where we were in the first couple of years. We did receive the number 17 worldwide theater ranking by Pollstar, which is an industry publication. We're very proud of that accomplishment, and to be, I believe we were the only theater in Texas as well in the top 20. So here's a glimpse into our top 5 artist performances this year, and that's just based on ticket sales. It's interesting to note that 3 of the top 5 are comedians. I think that's a great testament to Smart Financial Center and how it's built and configured. It really plays well to the comedians. And then also 2 Latin artists in Peso Pluma and Fuerza Regida. So it was a great year. I mean, having, multiple artists get over 12,000 tickets. Obviously, that's 2 performances, but Matt Rife, Peso, Leanne, and Fuerza Regida were all double days, 2 performances, and then Shane Gillis just 1 performance. So, more than just the accomplishments with ticket sales and attendance, I really wanted to highlight all that we accomplished in the community and with our partners. So, starting off with the image you see on the right, those are 3 beautiful murals that were commissioned at the April 2023 Cultural Arts Foundation festival that happens on our plaza. So, we partnered with them to get artists to commission these 4 pieces. This will be an annual project that we do with the Arts Foundation. So every year we'll get 4 new pieces to highlight in our main lobby. So when guests walk in, this is just a great addition to the lobby. It adds so much color and vibrancy, and the guests really like to interact with it, and we love to support the local artists. In December, so late last year, we opened our sweet shop by Visit Sugarland, which I think most of you have been able to get a walk through. It's a beautiful space. This is a great partnership with Visit Sugarland. This space really highlights everything that we all love about our city. It's got sweets, it's got treats, it's got fun colors, and also it's a retail space so that guests who come in can really use this space as an opportunity to shop and use it as almost like a visitor center to get Sugarland specific merchandise. And it's been a great success so far. The guests love it. I love seeing the fresh baked goods in the space as well. It's been a great addition to the first floor lobby as well. We took advantage of the Sugarland Civic's Arts Division art sponsorship. So we commissioned a local artist to do a 35 foot by 10 foot piece in our backstage hallway. So this is artist facing, this is for the crew, the touring crew, and we really wanted to create a piece that highlights everything that we love about the city, the history, and this piece has just been such a great addition to backstage. As you can see on the right there, that's Leanne Morgan, a famous comedian who posted on her social media, happy to be in Sugarland, posed in front of it. So that's just great to have our artists interacting with this piece backstage. At SMART, we're committed to being a part of the community that we serve, through any ways we can. One being using our beautiful lights to shine bright for the support of Black History Month in February. And let's see. Oh, we supported Orion and the Space Cowboys this past summer. Took our staff out to see the local home team. That was a great way to get out of the office and support the Space Cowboys. We've donated over 8,000 tickets, $8,000 worth of tickets to 13 local NPOs for their fundraising efforts in 2023 as well. And then we hosted the first annual Red and Blue United event with the Aaron Watson Benefit Concert, which is a great success, and so pleased to be able to help support that event and do such a good job for our Red and Blue members. So looking ahead to 2024, we're projecting even better numbers than we had in 2023, hoping to continue to build the momentum that we generated in 23 and push that forward to this coming year. We've got some great shows coming, like you see there on the right, some really good, well-known national, international artists as well. Our second floor is under renovation as we speak. Our suite lounge is getting an upgrade. There's a little glimpse into what that space is going to look like. So really excited to see that come to life. It should be done here in May. And that's what I have for you all. It's a busy 2023. I feel like we accomplished a lot, and looking forward to another great year.
Elise, thanks to you and your team. I think you guys done a fabulous job. I mean, it only seats 6,400. Actually a little less than that. So when you're selling 12,000 plus, it's a sellout. Mm-hmm. So you guys have done a great job. Please convey it to the team. Anybody else?
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Item number 2 is public comment. We have a number of people that are signed up for public comment. A little bit about how it's going to work. We're going to give everybody a chance to speak. You'll be given 3 minutes. I'd like you to give us your name, your address, and the agenda item that you'd like to speak on. I would remind everybody to keep on topic for whatever the agenda is, item that you want to speak on. Remain on topic. No clapping, no standing up, no disruptions. If that happens, we'll recess, and then we'll come back in. So here we go. Our first guest is Amina S. Amina?
Hi there.
Hi.
Good afternoon. I would like to speak to you today about why I think you should support Palestine. And I won't talk to you about the ceasefire because I know there are a lot of amazing people here that are already here to do that. But I'd like to inform you about why. First of all, I'd like to tell you that I'm 13, currently in 7th grade attending middle school, and I support Palestine. I know people in 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade in elementary school who also support Palestine. My 6-year-old brother in 1st grade is able to recognize the difference between right and wrong, and he supports Palestine. I'm telling you this to show you that even young people like us are able to tell the difference between right and wrong, and how clearly what Israel is currently doing to Palestine is wrong and genocide. And I also want you to know how this makes me feel, that the people that make the decisions for where I live aren't capable of doing that and capable of seeing that Israel is currently committing genocide on Palestine. And I would like it if you would also stand up for them and all the people like me who are currently dying there. And please help support us with the ceasefire. Thank you.
Thank you, Mina. Our next guest is Tony Alcock.
Hi, you need my address?
You can go ahead and you can just go ahead and tell us what your address is. You wrote it down.
Okay. It's 7010 Eden Cove Court, Sugar Land, Texas. So thank you for letting me speak. I too wanted to support, show my support for ceasefire in Gaza. Over the last 5 months, there's over 31,000 people have died in Gaza. 13,000 of those are children. They could have been going to Commonwealth Elementary. They're the same type of kids. Examples include Hind Rajab. Hind, she was a 6-year-old girl. Her and her family were trying to flee in the car when the car was bombed. And all her family were killed except for Hind. And she managed to get a phone and call for help. And the Gaza authorities arranged with the IDF that they could retrieve this girl. And when two paramedics went to rescue Hind, their ambulance was bombed and Hind's car was again attacked, resulting in this little 6-year-old girl dying, and as well as the 2 people sent to rescue her. Another example is a Palestinian journalist, Wael Dawood. So as a journalist, he was reporting on the conflict, and while he was away, his house was attacked by an IDF bomb. His wife was killed, his 7-year-old daughter was killed, and his 15-year-old son was killed. He got home to that. His 27-year-old son was not in the house at the time, but about 2 weeks later, he too was killed. His car was driving and was targeted by an IDF bomb, and he was assassinated. These aren't natural disasters. These are 31,000 people that have been killed by people. And I think Gaza is now facing famine. They're facing attack in Rafah, and it's very probable that more people will die. I'm not sure me talking here today is going to make a difference, or even if Sugar Land Council does a proclamation, if it'll make a difference. But we have to try. We're 31,000 people too late, but we have to do something about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Our next guest is Iveta Gasparova.
Hello, my name is Eve and I'm a Sugar Land resident. I am once again asking you to use your voices and positions of power to call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire. The last time I was here, I recommended documentaries on the Nakba and the Great March of Return because it's so much easier to see through the propaganda once you've got an ounce of context, but you really shouldn't need it. You have access to social media. I know you've seen war crimes and turned a blind eye. Or maybe you saw it as a means to an end, self-defense for October 7th, but everything before that is just too complicated. I don't really know what you think because you've chosen to keep silent in the face of injustice, but I can tell you it's not complicated. It's colonialism. It's a racist apartheid occupation that's been displacing and killing natives in the interest of their imperial backers for just over 100 years now. Right now, it's propped up by the US empire. It is out of place in history. We agreed never again. We have protocols from the US stating international responsibility to protect populations from genocide. So things like purposeful starvation of 2 million people and committing regular flower massacres as people fight for the insufficient aid that makes it past Israeli checkpoints. The US itself has laws prohibiting assistance to countries that restrict US humanitarian assistance. Yet we, on multiple occasions, have vetoed US ceasefire resolutions. We were the only country out of the 15 members of the UN Security Council to veto a resolution condemning Israel for, in one flower massacre, shooting almost 1,000 people. There is a complete lack of responsibility for our country's war crimes, and you have a responsibility to speak out against it. Not just as American elected officials, but as representatives of Palestinians that were personally trapped in Gaza for a month. Sugar Land residents were trapped in Gaza for a month. Your residents were the direct victims of war crimes. Whenever you heard Israeli officials talking about restricting the necessities of life and calling Palestinians animals, they were talking about your residents. You've known that for 2 weeks now, at least, and you've done nothing with that information. You should have an opinion on that. Silence is not acceptable. What are we supposed to think? That you're reasonable centrists, that you're unbiased? I think it's an embarrassing failure to support your community. If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. I need you to call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire.
Thank you. Our next guest is Joanna Lesmeister.
I would like to urge you today to support a resolution for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Israel and Palestine. The Trump and Biden administrations each subscribed to the false view embodied in the Abraham Accord that it would be possible for Israel and the Arab states to make peace without the Palestinians, over and above the head of the Palestinians. It was this short-sighted thinking to render the fate of 2 million Gazans who have been besieged and starved since 2007, 3 million under direct military occupation and apartheid in the West Bank, and the millions more Palestinian refugees abroad and Palestinian citizens of Israel without equal civil rights, permanently to the margins. And there's this failed strategy that led to the horrors that visited Israel on October 7th, and the magnitudinally worse horrors that Israel is now inflicting on Gaza. In the absence of leadership from above, we have to take the initiative to propose a path for a just peace that puts the Palestinian people, the principal victims of this conflict, at the center. We must demand that the Biden administration cease all funding and military cooperation with the Netanyahu regime and apply sanctions on it until it ends its genocidal siege and invasion of Gaza, so that a permanent ceasefire can form the basis for a just and lasting peace for all the peoples of Palestine. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. Our next guest is Amina Isho.
Hello, my name is Amna Ishaq. This is the third time I've come here. But today I am here to share the story of Ahmed, a 12-year-old boy from Gaza, whose desperate attempt to bring food for his starving family almost got him killed. Ahmed's life, like most of the Palestinians under Israeli occupation, is filled with despair, humiliation, and constant struggle for survival. Ahmed's home got destroyed by Israeli bombing that forced them to take the risky journey to move towards Rafah, the south of Gaza. This journey to Rafah was filled with constant bombing from Israeli ground troops, warplanes, and snipers. Ahmed recalls his family not being sure how they would make it alive to Rafah. They had no choice but to keep moving on foot. In the course of their uncertain journey, filled with destroyed streets, crumbled houses, and death everywhere, Ahmed, the 12-year-old boy, also suffered loss in his family. Ahmed lost his dad and members of his extended family in one of the Israeli bombings, making him the man of the house, as we would say. Ahmed recalls they were close to getting into Rafah, but could not make it because of constant firing from snipers that killed anything and everything that moved in the streets. His family had to stop and hide in the ruins of the buildings, waiting for some sign of safety to move on. Between fatigue, anxiety, and desperation, there was hunger, extreme hunger. Ahmed recalls that it was very painful for him to hear the cries of his younger siblings and his mother trying to console them as they did not eat for days. Ahmed heard that food is being dropped from the sky, and the only way to get it is to reach it. Ahmed was determined to feed his family, but did not know where to go. He kept his eyes on the sky, looking for signs of food. The moment he heard the planes, he looked at the skies and saw food being dropped. Without a moment's thought, without his shoes on, without waiting for even a second, Ahmed just started sprinting into action. With his eyes on the sky, he ran as fast as he could in the direction of the food. Ahmed ran through rubble, destroyed streets, destroyed houses, with one goal in mind: to get food. He said he didn't know which way he was going. He just went as fast as he could. He didn't care if the sniper fire, as the pain of hunger was greater than the pain of death. Ahmed reached the seafront where the food was dropping. He saw huge crowds getting the food, but he had no option but to push through and get whatever he could. Then there was a huge question in mind. He looked up, how do I get back to my family? Ahmed had no idea where he was, how far he was, and what route to take back. He was lost and overwhelmed, and in the anguish, he erupted into tears, and people tried to help him reunite with his family. Ahmed ran 12 kilometers, 7.5 miles away.
10 seconds, ma'am.
We as Sugar Land citizens need to show compassion and stand with what is right and call for a permanent ceasefire for Ahmed and for all the kids.
Thank you, Mee. Our next guest is Fatima Rashid.
Hello. I too am advocating for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza. So as a citizen of Fort Bend County, it's my moral obligation to make the world a better place, which is why I'm advocating for this. 30,000, just think of that number, 30,000, over 30,000 people have been killed in Gaza. Many of them are women and children. 30,000, just let that sink in. Even one person killed unjustly is too much. And all these innocent civilians being killed every single day, and the US is complicit in the genocide by sending funds and arms to Israel with our taxpayer money. As a citizen of Fort Bend County, I urge the City Council to push for a permanent ceasefire and stop this massacre. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatima. Our next guest is Andrew Ross.
I want to first express my gratitude to the City Council for allowing me to speak today as a senior and a registered voter, and for acknowledging our Commonwealth. Back when I was in 5th grade, Carol generously gave me a bike light at CWE's Bike to School event, which was donated by the city's engineering department. I want to extend my thanks to Carol for her kindness. Thanks to her gift, I started advocating for health and wellness. I also want to express my appreciation to Sydney King for giving me and my classmates a tour of the shelter when she first started. Now, I commend her for proposing updates to the animal ordinance, including the Texas Safe Outdoor Law and TNR. I firmly believe that Sugar Land will support every possible effort to find animals a home and increase capacity while opening for citizen intake. I'd like the city to consider fostering more community partnerships, such as Williamson County's initiative to allow high schoolers to foster medium and large dogs, provided an adult allows this. This initiative not only gives dogs a break from the shelter and provides teens with volunteer opportunities, but also introduces dogs to households that may not have considered pet ownership before. The positive impact on physical and mental health is undeniable. This is all about making Sugar Land a better community, something I learned the importance at CWE.
Thank you, Andrew. Our next guest is George Font, and he wants to speak on item 7A.
Thank you. My name is George Font. I'm a resident of Sugar Land, District 4, yay Commonwealth. I'm a former president of my association covering 5 states. I was a longtime Boy Scout leader that would bring scouts to these meetings for them to learn about civics and earn their civics merit badge. And we'd also learn about thinking globally and acting locally. I'm a first-generation refugee from Cuba who escaped a violent, oppressive regime. My family lost everything, but gained freedom here to pursue the American dream, for which I'm grateful. As are many immigrants living here, a sampling that you see behind me. I'm here to present a clear rationale to this council on why it should issue a ceasefire resolution for Palestine. Many immigrants here, living here, know too well the pain of violence, war, oppression, starvation in their countries. This conflict in Gaza hits us personally, as you've heard. We read and watch international news sources where this is still front-page news, more in-depth and more graphic than what our media here reports, glosses over, or skips entirely. It's raw and painful, again, as you've heard, and it's creating great anger and frustration with our conflicted federal government. It's safe to say that most of the world feels outraged. I can speak to this because I have family members living abroad and have visited 6 different NATO-allied countries in the past few months. So why should you pass a ceasefire resolution, besides it being the morally and humane thing to do? 1, you'll support constituents who you see are hurting by saying Sugar Land cares about human rights, human lives, and respects different races and religions. These are American values that you can demonstrate as our local government, even if our national government can't or won't. 2, you'll allow us to say to our many international connections, I live in a great city that's attuned to international issues and peoples, and it's a great place to bring international business. 3, this council could gain invaluable political capital from a large constituency who make up what we proudly and rightfully claim as the most ethnically and racially diverse community in this country. And last, you can also preempt the disruptions, demonstrations, negativity that are all happening in city halls across the country, which thankfully hasn't happened here. But in today's world, it only takes one social media post or incident to create a zoo along with bad publicity, and we don't want that. A resolution is a low-risk gesture, taking sides without taking sides. which at least 80 other cities have done. Here at home, the Fort Bend Interfaith Community issued such a proclamation representing 35 local houses of worship, including Catholic, Jewish, Muslim, Methodist, Baptist, Buddhist, and other faiths. I hold a copy of that letter. The window is closing for this council to act and win over the political capital and
You'll
goodwill.
wrap up, please.
Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, George. Michelle McKeska.
Hello again, City Council members. Once again, we are demanding that this council craft a resolution calling for a permanent and immediate ceasefire in Gaza. And since our last appeal did not move you into action, we are here again. I stand before you today with the terrible knowledge that our country is currently making us all complicit in a genocide. The blood of innocent men, women, and children are on our hands because your tax dollars and mine are funding bombs, tanks, and artillery. One of the bombs we're paying for and supplying is called a bunker buster. This bomb has so much concussive force that anyone within a 100-mile radius doesn't die from the blast, but of internal bleeding due to organ damage. Children are particularly vulnerable to this kind of bomb because their organs haven't fully developed. I didn't know what a bunker buster was before October, but now I know a lot of things. Things I can never not know or pretend to ignore because I wake up every morning and see atrocities committed live on my phone. And because I have the internet and access to public records, I know that my country and my leaders are largely responsible for funding it and supplying the weapons, which, to reiterate, makes us all complicit. Did you know that there are currently 50,000 pregnant women in Palestine? Did you also know that 30 out of the 36 hospitals have been bombed, leveled to the ground? The remaining 6 are barely functional, and as of just today, we learned about Al-Shifa has been raided by Israeli forces again, 50 people killed and 100 kidnapped. Hospitals, this is a war crime. Imagine being pregnant in Gaza and not having access to life-saving medicine that is currently being blocked. Aid trucks have the medicine, but it is being blocked by Israel. Also, the risk of early labor is much higher. Some of the 3 reasons you might go into labor early are hunger, dehydration, and extreme stress, something almost every person in Gaza is experiencing. This is simply one example of the everyday horror that the people of Gaza are experiencing. My 3-minute public comment is hardly enough time to list the countless war crimes Israel has committed in public view and with our country's funding and approval. The only way this nightmare will end is with an immediate and permanent ceasefire. And crafting a resolution that calls for one is really, at this point, the bare minimum we can all do.
5 seconds, please.
I urge you to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Our next guest is Romana Ahmed.
Good evening, Sugarland City Council. My name is Romana Ahmed, and Sugarland has been my home for many years, since Sugarland was mostly rolling fields. A student of Town West Elementary, Sugarland Middle School, and Clements High School, so I speak to you truly as representatives of my home. I'm a marriage and family therapist and director of American Muslim Women's Circle, and I consider myself a community servant, as I'm sure you do too. As community servants, it's incumbent on us to look beyond ourselves, to serve the suffering regardless of race, religion, creed. Last summer, the Islamic Society of Greater Houston, Mariam Islamic Center, and the American Muslim Circle heard that the wonderful organization Lunches of Love in Fort Bend was struggling to provide meals to underserved children. Their shelves were bare. That was our calling. How could we look away? I was so proud of Houston's citywide Muslim community who showed up big to serve the children in Fort Bend, regardless of who they are or where they come from. Council members, as community servants, we are being summoned by the children, women, and men of Gaza who are starving. We can't look away. 80% of global famine is concentrated in Gaza. They aren't starving, they are being starved. Hunger has reached catastrophic levels. Parents are burying their children who have starved to death because of Israel's chokehold on aid, which is part of their heinous strategy to obliterate an entire population of people. Textbook genocide is unfolding before our eyes in real time. You must have seen the gut-wrenching images of Israel's massacre of Palestinian civilians, collecting food, innocent, vulnerable, starving, and displaced. Did you know the number of Palestinian children who are starving right now is 800,000. That's close to 8 times the population of our beautiful city. Council members, what if these were your children, your families? What if this was you? I can assure you that my community would stand shoulder to shoulder with you to fight for your human rights of food, shelter, safety, freedom. Israel's vicious siege on Gaza is the worst of our lifetime. If we are truly community servants, this must move us to action. Permanent ceasefire now. Liberate Palestine from Israel occupation now. No hard-earned tax dollars to fund Israel's war crimes. If we are eating dinner tonight in layers of privilege over hot meals in the safety of our homes with our families and not moved in some way to resist this wicked apocalypse, then we need to reassess who we really are, because identifying as community servants and activists is nothing but self-deceit. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ramona. Our next guest is Diana Wright Latham.
Hi, my name is Diana Wright Latham, and I'm a citizen of Sugar Land, Texas. I was wanting to address some of the issues with the dog and cat ordinance that's going to be coming up. One of my main concerns is the limiting of space by using euthanasia. And I know there's two different sets of rules kind of going around, and they are conflicting. I don't feel like there's ever a time when there's a reason to justify euthanizing an animal of any kind just for space purposes. Some of these animals end up there just by accident or negligence or an oversight. Sometimes people have someone watching their pet when they go out of town on vacation. Somebody's careless, they're gone for a week, they pass the 5-day limit, and that's too bad, so sad. Sometimes people that are watching the animals don't bother to let their owners know, hey, your dog got out, I'm really sorry, so they don't even have an opportunity to try and do something to rescue their pet or have someone take care of that. I know that there's overcrowding everywhere. We all went through seeing a lot of people get pets during COVID because they were home, and now they're going back to work and they can't take care of them or don't, or it's too much trouble, or they're too tired when they get home. There are also people that still care about their pets, and they're all mixed together in the same place if they get out and they're loose, whether someone just dumps them somewhere or they get out because the yard man left the door open. I think it's really imperative that we get the guidelines standardized between the ordinances and the standard operating procedures, to where only giving an animal 5 days to be found is just really not fair to the animal. There are other conditions where it might be necessary, but just because they are overcrowding, I don't feel like it's ever going to be legitimate for space, to be a reason to kill an animal that's, they can't help themselves. They're victims of their circumstances. I feel like it's important that whatever guidelines we go by need to match each other, the ordinance and whatever the standard operating procedures are. needs to be consistent, and I really feel like that's something that if we can expand on the foster program, that some of these animals that might not have a place to be can get a place for at least, more than a weekend, or, the overnight guest things that they offer, which is a nice thing to have. I'm not, knocking that, but, giving an animal, if someone is willing to foster it for a month or two, it gives them a chance to be in a family environment and a chance to help them find a home. And in the meantime, if somebody, another animal needs to come in, there's room. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next guest is Charlene Avery.
My name is Charlene Avery. I live on Topaz Trail in Sugar Land. As Sugar Land population continues to grow, so does our animal population. As new people and animals come to live in our great city, we need to ensure that our animal ordinance and standard operating procedures, our SOPs, they need to match and mirror our compassion, and that even with new directors, staff, and other leaders coming in, the animals within our shelter system will be protected and cared for in the most humane way. Within the SOPs, it states that the policy guidelines is a living document. It is therefore imperative that we leave no doubt as to what is acceptable regarding the euthanizations of animals that inadvertently end up in our Sugar Land shelter. It also states, and I quote, "The ordinances are written to the extent that they are more stringent than state law and handle animal issues that may be outside of state law," end quote. We are therefore respectfully asking for the EU language within the ordinance match the SOPs that were changed just last year by our great AAB board members, staff, as well as input from citizens. Sections 345F, EU for space limitations should be deleted. We do not EU for space like other shelters do. Temperament should be expanded and utilize the language within our SOPs. There is language within the current euthanization policy and procedure that was worked on very hard, and we really like that. And I want to make it clear that I am by no means asking for all EU language to be deleted. I am just asking for modification for it to match up. I am also so very pleased to see the community cat program has been added to the ordinance. It is the most humane way to help stop the overpopulation of cats in our area and keep them out of the shelter, freeing up much needed space. Sugar Land is indeed the sweetest and most compassionate city, and our animal ordinance and SOPs should reflect that. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Charlene. Our next guest is Sarah Sattler. Santa?
I think that was me. I think my handwriting wasn't that great. It's Sana Satar.
Sana. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sana.
Okay. So my name is Sana Satar. I'm a resident of Sugar Land, and like many of the other ones that are here today, I wanted to urge Sugar Land City Council to please issue a statement perhaps, or stand up against the people of Gaza and issue a permanent ceasefire in Gaza. I was just, it amazes me that at this day and age, so many civilians are being bombed and the world is silently watching. Babies are being burned. I mean, they're babies. Who burns babies? Children are dying of starvation. Before we just see burnt bodies. Now we're seeing burnt and starved bodies. I mean, I'm sorry for the graphic, but they have bones sticking out. I went to med school in Pakistan, and I remember seeing kids with bones, marasmus, kwashiorkor, because there were kids that were starving, and that was in a government hospital. I used to rotate there, and I'm seeing numerous millions, so many kids, and this is happening, and we're just okay, and we're just watching this. It's just so surprising. Like, what are we teaching our kids? That it's okay? It's okay to starve people, and we're just gonna sit there and watch? How can we raise our kids in a world where this is okay? What are we teaching them? If we are watching, we are complicit. If we are providing funding and arms, obviously we are complicit. If we are not proactively urging for a ceasefire, we are complicit. I urge you all to make this world a better place for us and our future generations. In the name of humanity, please urge for a permanent ceasefire. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Our next guest is Christiane Galvani.
Good evening. My name is Christiane Galvani. I live on Fairway Drive in Sugar Creek. And I'm here for, I'd like to say just two things. The first one is I'd like to express my admiration for the staff of the Sugarland Animal Services. I've done a little bit of volunteering there in the last year, and I am impressed more than I can express by the organization, the compassion, the dedication to their work, and the lovely way that they interact with the animals has really impressed me and made me extremely proud and happy. I would like to express my I would like to plead for raising the capacity and not turning people away who turn in stray animals. And that's not just me speaking as an animal lover, but on behalf of the people who don't love dogs, who are afraid of dogs, who don't like stray dogs running down the street, who maybe don't enjoy their evening walk because they're afraid of stray dogs. And I think Sugarland deserves better, and maybe if we have more space and we have more capacity, we can meet the need more efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you, Christiane. Our final guest is Pansy Chung. Pansy?
Hi, I want to thank you once again for listening to us for the past few months, and I want to thank the animal shelter staff, because I'm speaking kind of on ordinance changes in regards to the shelter, but I want to thank them for their dedication to the shelter. So today I want to talk about the potential changes in our ordinance, quite possibly the euthanasia protocols for the shelter. I want to reiterate that the Sugarland Way has never been about euthanizing animals for capacity. And to euthanize because we cannot find animals to foster home or rescue would still be considered euthanizing for capacity issues. Our city has upheld a standard of care that values life and seeks alternative solutions, and we cannot abandon this principle now. I speak not only as a citizen, but also as somebody who has dedicated myself to assisting stray animals over the years. Although I'm currently not a volunteer at Sugarland Animal Shelter due to my heavy work travel schedule, I've been a volunteer and a foster for several local shelters such as BARC, RPM, HPA, and Friends for Life, to name a few. I've also been involved in street rescues in the past. I understand the uphill battle that the staff face each day. And yet, I've also spoken to industry experts who confirm that there may be solutions within reach. I want to make it clear that I totally understand not every animal can be saved, and having a euthanasia protocol is very crucial. We know that Sugarland already has the advantage of having an excellent staff to animal ratio. So when we see neighboring shelters that's having a higher animal count, but still we're able to transfer animals out and have a robust foster network, I urge our city staff to seek guidance from those shelters if possible. Another plea for our euthanasia discussion is the need for a clear and measurable definition of what constitutes an unsavable animal, both medically and behaviorally, and also to implement a good checks and balance system for each matrix. Without this clarity, we risk condemning animals who would otherwise be saved. I understand we have an amazing shelter staff at this moment. However, we may not be always as lucky. Our history has taught us a lesson in 2022. Therefore, we must recognize the importance of vigilance, and as guardians of our community's well-being and reputation, we must be watchful for signs of nefarious activities. And by having a clear, measurable protocol for euthanasia and a good checks and balance system, we can achieve just that together. Another approach to enhance effectiveness of the shelter is to implement measurable tracking system for Sugar Land's effort to networking fosters and rescues. I just think that having a good insights and like measurable matrix is going to be good for us to judge whether our outreach initiative is effective. And the data-driven approach enables decision makers to make more informed decisions. And once again, I want to thank you for listening and for your service to the city.
Thank you, Patsy. Our next guest is Samita Rizvi.
Good day. It's Samiha Rizvi, by the way. Hello, City Council members, and Ramadan Kareem to you all. During one of my infrequent checks on Facebook last week, a platform not often utilized by my generation, I came across a post. The post showcased community leaders coming together to celebrate an iftar event hosted by Councilman Kermally. I think it's wonderful to see people across different faiths and backgrounds break bread together in the spirit of Ramadan. However, I, along with many, if not all Muslims, can't help but ask ourselves, how can we observe the sacred month when Gaza is starving right before our eyes? The United Nations has issued a stark warning, highlighting that 1.1 million Palestinians face the imminent threat of death due to severe food shortages. Councilman Kermally, as the sole Muslim representative on the Sugar Land City Council, I implore you to ponder this question. What role do we as privileged members of society play in alleviating the hardships faced by the oppressed? Over the years, as Muslims in Sugar Land, we've been blessed with respect and influence. Yet in our pursuit of advancing our own needs, have we lost sight of the fundamental principles of Ramadan? Ramadan isn't merely about abstaining from food and drink. It's a time for profound spiritual growth and social responsibility. It beckons us to embody empathy, generosity, and solidarity, virtues that transcend religious boundaries and resonate with the core of our humanity. City Council, I challenge you to reflect on your capacity for empathy, generosity, and solidarity. The next time you gather together to observe a religious holiday or month, I implore you to ask yourselves, where do you stand, especially considering the immense human suffering? Nearly 32,000 Palestinians killed, over 73,000 are wounded, and an estimated 8,000 are missing and feared buried dead beneath the rubble, all at the hands of Israel and its allies, including the United States, including the state of Texas. At the very least, in the face of such unspeakable anguish, advocating for a ceasefire is imperative. Please use your power, influence, and alleged solidarity with our Muslim community to pass a ceasefire resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got our final guest is Samita Ghosh. If you would like to speak and have not had an opportunity, I'd ask that you fill out one of these forms. You can fill it out after you speak, but we want to make sure that everybody has a chance. Samita?
Thank you. Thank you, council members. Go Commonwealth Cougars, and appreciated the recognition as a parent and a PTO volunteer, which is really one of the reasons that I think we like to take credit for Commonwealth. But anyway, I'm actually here. I live off of Kennesaw Court in Sugar Land, Texas. I'm actually going to read the remarks of Lynn Harpham, who lives at 403 Brenner Court, Sugar Land, Texas. And it's relating to agenda item 5D, which is the ordinance 2330 relating to the Texas Safe Outdoor Dog Law. What we, as I guess in summary, our concerns, me also, is that the devil is in the details. There's a lot of gray areas in the ordinance which don't match up with the SOPs, and I'm sure Meredith is more than capable of going back to the drawing board and incorporating citizen input and animal AAB input and sort of cleaning up the language and trying to really embody the Sugarland way of being humane and not euthanizing for capacity and space and things like that. So Ordinance 2330 encapsulates the Texas Safe Outdoor Dog Law, but doesn't spell out a critical piece. One of the key components of this law is that negligent owners don't have to be granted 24 hours to fix deplorable conditions. Dogs can now be rescued immediately. Last year, I was aware of at least a half a dozen situations where neighbors attempted to intervene to help dogs left out in sub-freezing temperatures, and although police and other animal control officers did make calls to the residents, the animals were left on the premises. The poor dogs continued to suffer, and neighbors felt helpless. If we had a city ordinance which clearly spells out to residents that the animal can and should be taken immediately, fewer dogs will suffer next winter. I'd like to see the wording which permits euthanization of nursing kittens stricken from the ordinance. At the last AAB meeting, the city insisted that they would never want to do this, and I know staff have taken home scores of unweaned kittens to take care of them. But this ordinance will govern far into the future when perhaps someone else is a steward of the shelter, and it's a matter of integrity. I don't think many people would accept troublesome bylaws of any organization where the caveat is, oh, don't worry, we don't really mean that. I'd also like to see existing language removed which gives the city the right to humanely euthanize an animal after the stray hold expires. I'm going to skip because you've already heard about that. Finally, I'm deeply troubled by the way capacity is being handled at the shelter, and I wonder if it is possible to address this in the ordinance. In all of 2023, the shelter took in less than half as many animals as they did in any of the previous 5 years. Despite a staff that is at least twice and perhaps triple the size, the stray population is challenging every community in the country right now. Most shelters are responding by adding kennels to hallways, adding temporary buildings, using both inside and outside kennels, etc. If not now, perhaps in the future, council can consider amending this ordinance with meaningful.
Thank you. That was our last speaker that filled out a form. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? We're going to move on to item number 3, consent agenda. All the items on the consent agenda will be taken with one motion unless a council member wants to pull an item, and then it will be taken separately under a separate vote. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Got a motion by McCutcheon. Do I have a second? Second by Kermally? Second by Kermally. Suzanne, you're too late. You vote at this time, please. A 7-0 vote. Thank you, council members. Item number 4, public hearing. 4A, public hearing. Receive and hear all persons desiring to be heard on 1, proposed amendment to the Sugarland Development Code, tables 271.1 and 291.1, amending the land use matrices for residential and non-residential land uses. Item number 2, proposed amendment to ordinance number 1430, 1676, 1683, 1812, 1826, 1850, 1904, 1905, 1926, 1936, 2041, 2081, 2018, 2259, 2291, 2297, removing SIC code 5993, tobacco stores and stands, and ordinance 2307, removing tobacco and hookah retail store as allowed uses. This is to align with recent modifications to the Code of Ordinance, chapter number 3, article number 8, which further limited smoking in places, public places, and took effect December 31, 2023. We have with us tonight Laura Waller, our senior planner. Laura.
Good evening. So we do have 2 items that are going for the public hearing at the same time, but we're going to present first the development code updates, and then we'll talk about the PD amendment also. So going to start with just a little bit of background on both the development code updates as well as some of the PD amendments that you guys might remember from last fall. We'll talk about a summary of changes that are going into the chart, and then the public hearing requirements, questions and clarifications for staff, and then we'll have 2 separate actions, and that'll be the first will come the ordinance 2330, actually 2333 will be first on the PD amendments, and then 2334 will be on the development code. So a little bit of background, these development code amendments have gone before the EDC and PNC Commission with summaries, and then for the commission, we also went through a very, very detailed workshop about every minute change that is going before you guys this evening. This is just the beginning of an overall project that staff has taken on to modernize the code and also to help support current city initiatives. We know that the council's top priority is redevelopment, so we do want to help support redevelopment and reuse of existing sites, as well as business retention and attracting new target industries. And this is just the first phase of several to come. We are prioritizing the land use matrix right now, and because it is, we can couple it with that alignment with the Code of Ordinances regarding smoking in public places. So one of the, we have some categories that we focused on for the summary of changes. So the first category is simplifying land use categories. So this is going to make it easier for residents and business owners to figure out where their proposed business might best fit into the chart so they can figure out where it's allowed. So this is going to, it's typically takes several different uses and just combines them into one. So for instance, retail sales is a new use now that takes up what used to be furniture and home furnishings, several different sizes of grocery stores, home improvement stores, household appliances, pharmacy, and other retail stores. Those have now all been consolidated into one single use. Or actually, it's 3 uses: retail sales, small, medium, and large. So similarly, medical, dental, or therapist clinic or office combines clinics, concierge medical care, counseling and therapy services, and other health services. And then personal service is consolidating print shop, repair shops, salons, spa, barber shops, and then art instruction studios and photography studios. Something else that we worked on was standardizing conditional use permit requirements. So we wanted to really front load the development code. So I know you guys have heard that before, where we just clarify what the expectations are of the city for specific uses. That helps to streamline the process so that we can move at the speed of business rather than waiting on zoning processes. So we utilize data from past CUP ordinances, and we standardize that by adding it to the chart itself rather than negotiating after the fact. So this, these are things like placing appropriate size maximums on several uses rather than offering conditional use permits for larger sizes, standardizing typical conditions such as what we would go on a garage bay orientation for car minor auto repair services, for requiring additional landscaping and bigger minimum planting sizes, masonry fences at 8 feet rather than 6-foot wood fences, screening for miscellaneous outdoor uses, separation requirements for outdoor uses from single family, and for some of the uses such as like nursing and personal care facility, we have instituted beds per acre maximum, concentration maximums, in alignment with previously approved CUPs. To support some of the reuse and redevelopment of existing sites, we have clarified services in the business office zoning district to allow for support services to be able to go into smaller office buildings. This will allow for turnover of tenant spaces in order to, and open up more services in those areas that are desperately needed. We've also aligned our permitted land uses in alignment with some of our economic development initiatives. So work closely with economic development on making sure that the target industries that they are going after are allowed by right in the districts that are appropriate. So things like our pharmaceutical packing and blending, that's part of some of the biomedical and life sciences target industries. So we wanted to make sure that was allowed by right. And then we also have allowed for some additional entertainment and experiential opportunities in our commercial areas. We did still keep that protection for the residential distance for separation requirements for outdoor uses, but we did allow for some indoor and outdoor commercial and commercial amusement uses, allowed for restaurants by right in business office and restricted industrial areas. And then we also altered the definitions of microbreweries and opened that up in our B2 area by right. A couple of the other items is the kind of what sparked all of this coming before you this evening is the removing of tobacco, hookah, and vapor retail store as a permitted use. And then we did alter that definition just slightly to make sure that it is in full alignment with the Code of Ordinance changes that took place at the end of last year. Some other items to modernize our code: we added EV charging stations as a new separate use to modernize our code in response to some of those newer emerging technologies. And then we altered some of the definition of permanent makeup just to make sure that we're keeping up with the new industry standards. In addition to the development code before you tonight, there is also a PD amendment This is to, again, align with those recent changes to the Code of Ordinances that took place last fall. There are quite a few PD ordinances that need to be amended in order to remove the allowance of tobacco stores and stands. And then Ordinance 2307, which will remove the tobacco and hookah retail store. So again, this is in alignment with council direction and the Code of Ordinance changes that took place last fall. For public hearings for that development code amendment, we did publish notification online and in the newspaper, and we did notify property and business owners for those hookah business properties, making sure that both the property owner and business owner are aware of those coming changes based on some of the new state laws. And so far, we have not received any inquiries, and we are not aware of any opposition to these changes. Similarly, with the PD amendments, we did send out mailers to owners within the PDs and within 200 feet of them. We've also published notification online and in the paper. And again, we sent out specific letters to property owners and business owners letting them know that hookah land uses will, moving forward, be considered non-conforming. At this time, we have not received any inquiries, and again, we're not aware of any opposition. We're happy to answer any questions after the conclusion of the public hearing.
This time we're going to go ahead and open the public hearing and ask that anybody that would speak on this particular agenda item would come to the podium, and if you'd identify yourself, name, where you live, and you'll be given 3 minutes to speak. Second call. We're going to go ahead and close the public hearing. We're going to move to item number 5A. First consideration of an action on City of Sugar Land ordinance number 2333. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sugar Land, Texas, amending planned development districts adopted by ordinance numbers 1430, 1676, 1683, 1812, 1826, 1850, 1904, 1905, 1926, 1936, 2041, 2081, 2118, 2259, 2291, 2297, and 2307 by removing SIC code 5993 and tobacco, hookah, and vapor retail stores as a permitted land use. Council members, any question of Laura? Suzanne?
Thank you, sir. Just to be clear, can you explain, I know we're taking the hookah and the tobacco bars and we're not adding any more. Can you explain for all those people that are going to ask us where you can smoke in the retail restaurants that do exist? Because we have all these beautiful new patios and people want to go out there and smoke cigars or cigarettes or whatever. Can you tell us how this is going to affect that, please?
Yes, so the zoning district will actually not affect where you can smoke. That is controlled by the Code of Ordinances, the Smoking in Public Places Ordinance that took place last December 31st. This will not affect that at all. This will just prohibit new businesses from opening that sell tobacco and hookah products, and will limit expansion of existing ones. As far as where you can smoke, based on the Code of Ordinances, I believe it's in an outdoor patio at least 5 feet from a door. I can get you more information on that exact language. I'll need to get it from our E&S department.
Sean?
Laura, thank you. I know you didn't get questions, but I did get some questions from owners of the shops and also people that own the real estate. The word you use is retail store. The retail store for tobacco products. That means they cannot sell any kind of vape or tobacco products inside of a retail store and open a new one. Am I correct?
Correct. So for a store that is the what they sell, like that's their primary product. Yes, that is correct.
Correct. And then when you say hookah retail store, is that the retail product of the entire contraption that they're selling, or is that actually sitting somewhere and smoking the hookah for hours at a time?
So it's both. So all of that is categorized under one land use. So whether it is buying the smoking paraphernalia and accoutrements, or whether it is actually going in and smoking in the place, such as you would find in a tobacco bar, both of those will be prohibited.
Very good. Very good. Thank you very much. And Mayor, I'll make the motion to approve.
Got a motion by Kamali. Do I have a second? Second. Got a motion, a second by Lane. Vote at this time, please. And it's a 7-0 vote. Thank you, council members. Item number 5B, first consideration. Consideration of action on City of Sugar Land ordinance number 2334. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sugar Land, Texas, amending the Sugar Land Development Code by revising the residential and non-residential land use matrices found in table 271.1 and 291.1 by consolidating and clarifying certain land uses, standardizing conditional use permit conditions, removing tobacco, hookah, and vapor retail stores as a land use, and prohibiting the expansion of existing tobacco, hookah, and vapor retail stores. Laura.
So this is the second half of this item. So where the first motion, or the first item was amending it in all of those PD ordinances, this is the item that will take it out of the standard districts. So that's the B2 areas, in addition to all of those other changes that I summarized earlier. And happy to answer any questions.
Question, go ahead, Michelle.
Okay. Focusing on the expansion of the existing tobacco. So if someone has an existing store and they sell it to someone else, will the City of Sugar Land give them a certificate of occupancy? Or if they sell it, they cannot continue?
Yes, so that's going to fall under our non-conforming uses regulations. A store is allowed to continue its operation as is under new ownership, as long as there is not a discontinuation of the use for at least 6 months. So if the store closes, 6 months passes, the store cannot reopen. But if the store closes, it sells within 6 months, new ownership opens it up, they can continue the non-conforming use. They cannot expand it, however. That would be adding square footage to the store, things like that.
Follow up, Mayor?
Follow up.
So if someone sells their store, I would assume that the other party would take over immediately, right? So they can continue operations in that. Why if they sell the store or cease operations there and there is a time limit of 6 months, then someone else can come in within 4 months and open up that store again?
Correct. So the way that the code is currently written, there is a 6-month kind of lag period where you can close the store, and as long as you no more than 6 months passes, you can continue that non-conforming use at that location.
Is that a Sugar Land ordinance?
Yes, that is part of the development code.
Okay, so we can talk about that a little bit later, but I'm glad we're doing this. I'm excited that we're doing this. I know Jennifer Lane and I have been pushing for this since October, and for the public's information, we don't want vape stores in our city. We don't want hookah in our city. It's happening down the street. It can continue to happen down the street in our neighboring cities, but we want to keep our citizens, our young teenagers safe. And Mayor, you want to make the motion this time, Jennifer?
I do, but
Oh, sorry.
I have a comment, Mayor.
Comment, go ahead.
This is something that is quite a problem in high schools and things like that. And so I think we need to, as the city, to be leaders in our region, in our area, and for the state of Texas, to take a stance on vape use and try to put a stop to it, because it's doing nothing but damaging our children and causing problems in public schools, and we want to keep our kids safe. So I'm really proud of our council and our staff for working on this and taking a stand on it, and I hope that other cities will follow.
Do we have a motion? I'll make a motion to approve. Got a motion by Lane. Second? Who's the second?
Second.
Romali? Any other questions? Vote at this time, please. It's a 7-0 vote. Thank you, council members. Item number 5C. First consideration. Consideration of an action on City of Sugar Land ordinance number 2336. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sugar Land, Texas, prohibiting the use of designated groundwater from beneath certain property located at 810 Industrial Boulevard, Sugar Land, Texas, and supporting certification of a municipal setting designation by the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, providing a penalty clause and providing a severability clause. Katie Clayton, our Director of Utilities. Katie.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am here this evening to talk about a municipal setting designation request at 810 Industrial. I'll start out by reminding everyone what a municipal setting designation is. I'll talk about the applicant that we've received and the property, a review of the report that the applicant submitted, as well as our third-party review, and the recommendations moving forward. So to start, what is a municipal setting designation? It is a process whereby a private property owner works with the state, specifically the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, to evaluate typically industrial properties that have the potential for contamination of groundwater or soil from the activities that have happened on that property. Through the process, TCEQ works closely with the property owner to do environmental studies on the site to understand the extent of the contamination, and also determine what the best path forward is, whether that's a cleanup or, in this case, a municipal setting designation. The designation specifically is where this, the city becomes involved between the state and the property owner to remove that pathway for exposure. So if there is groundwater contamination or soil contamination, oftentimes the best way to protect the community is to remove that pathway. So if the property had wells on the site, this MSD designation in the city's ordinance removes that pathway. We say you will no longer have the ability to use those wells, and through that, the city commits to being the retail provider for water. The city has done this before. It's been several years. Back in 2021 was the last property where we had an MSD approved, and that was just down the road at 500 Industrial. So to talk about the applicant this evening, it is located at 810 Industrial Boulevard. They're just shy of 2 acres, and they are the Texas Precision Metalcraft Incorporated property. They have been operating on this site since the early 80s, doing foundry work. So it is a registered property with the state as a generator of industrial and hazardous waste. A little bit more about the property. They have been working with the state, and they also have an environmental consultant on board, SKA, that started back in 2022 and continued on through 23, where they've been doing environmental studies, sampling the groundwater and soil on the site. They have found shallow groundwater contamination less than 40 feet deep, and that can be attributed to the on-site activities. The property owner has been working with the state, has been working with TCEQ and the voluntary cleanup program, and that recommendation through the work with the state and the environmental studies is to submit to TCEQ as well as the city for a municipal setting designation. As far as the city's piece of this process, the applicant is required to submit an MSD application with the city. That includes that they provide us with all of the environmental studies that they've been working on, all of the reports that they've been providing TCEQ. And then the city goes and we hire a third-party environmental company consultant to review it. And so we've partnered with WSP to review that application and the TCEQ report. That assessment, that environmental study included 11 temporary and permanent wells within the site, and they, through those environmental studies, have identified several chemicals of concern, but again, they're in very shallow groundwater bearing units, less than 40 feet deep. So through WSP's review of the application, they've concluded that the proposed MSD does not pose a potential risk to the city's wells. The city's closest well, they've concluded that for a number of reasons, first of which is that the city's closest well is over a half-mile southwest of the site, and is much deeper than this 40 feet of contamination that they found. Our screens at that well don't start until over 600 feet deep. Also, the groundwater gradient, so that's the way that groundwater flows in our region, is flowing to the southeast. So our well that's southwest of the site is in the opposite direction of the way that the groundwater is flowing. Additionally, there are multiple clay layers, aquatards, that prevent that downward movement of the contamination. So between the 40 feet and less than 40 feet that they found the contamination and where our well screens start, there are multiple layers of clay that prevent that movement of contamination downward. And then lastly, the city protects our wells from shallow contamination in a number of ways when they're constructed, including that we use cement and steel casings. So again, WSP has concluded that the proposed MSD does not pose potential risk to the city's wells and to our water quality. This is in line with what TCEQ is also recommending. And the ordinance itself, this ordinance 2336, does a couple things. It specifies that there will no longer be any wells used on site. Any existing wells will be capped and any future wells will not be allowed. The city will be the retail provider for all water needs on the site. And just as recognizing that we currently are the service provider for the property. Lastly, just recognizing as far as the order of events, we'll have the first reading tonight and then the second reading will be before you on April 2nd. And so with that, staff recommends approval of the first reading of ordinance 2336, prohibiting the use of designated groundwater from beneath certain property located at 810 Industrial Boulevard, Sugar Land, Texas, and supporting the certification of municipal setting designation by TCEQ, providing a penalty clause and providing a severability clause. Be happy to take any questions.
Question. Katie, I've got a couple, two-part question. One, where'd the contamination come from?
So they they pour metal on site, and so there's degreasing agents and chemicals that they've used on site through that process that is likely the cause of the contamination. Okay, and this,
The second part of that question is, so it's not going to be required by TCEQ that they provide tertiary well treatment. In other words, pump whatever that groundwater is, treat it, and then re-inject it.
No, not to my knowledge. The recommendation is the MSD to just remove that pathway of exposure.
Okay. Michelle?
I know this is at 810 Industrial, but what about the neighboring buildings or land or whatever's there? Is there any threat or any issues for any of those?
No, we're the retail provider for all of these areas, and so there's no risk to the neighbors. Yeah.
Do I have a motion?
Yes, you do. Suzanne.
Suzanne, you've got the motion. Stuart, you've got the second. You'll vote at this time, please. This is a 7-0 vote. Thank you, council members. Thank you, Katie. Item number 5D, first consideration. Consideration of an action on City of Sugar Land Ordinance number 2330. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sugar Land, Texas, amending Chapter 2, Article 5, Division 4 of the Code of Ordinances to add a dangerous dog renewal fee, an aggressive dog fee, and a sterilization fee, amending Chapter 3, Article 2 of the Code of Ordinances by revising the dangerous dog provisions by establishing a community cat program and other amendments related thereto. And we have Ms. Cindy King, our Animal Services Manager. Cindy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I will be reviewing proposed ordinance modifications relating to adding a community cat program, identifying necessary provisions for animal care, updating dangerous and aggressive dogs, clarifying bite investigation qualifications, and establishing fees for aggressive animals. I'll be reviewing the updates and changes in this presentation, but not the entire ordinance. As we know, the adopted animal services ordinances will provide legal authority for us to operate, and that policies and procedures are going to guide us as for shelter operations and employee actions. So our TNR program was actually, which is a trap, neuter, and release, was a pilot program that was initiated by First Colony Mall pre-pandemic, when they believed they had at least 3 times the current number of cats that they have on site. New City Animal Services Management and First Colony Mall Management connected in late 2022 and early 2023, and this program kicked off in this last March. Because this program was fairly contained and easy to monitor, we expect to see significantly lower number of cats in need of spay or neutering this year. They will still be out there to feed the cats, and the community caretaker is taking care of the cats, but if a cat is trapped that already has its ear tipped, that's identified that it's already been spayed, neutered, and vaccinated and can be released back and doesn't have to be taken in. The caretaker of this colony believes that there's only 2 females and 1 male left to be spayed or neutered. And of those males, or of the females, 1 has delivered 6 little beans for us to take, so she's fostering them right now. We have received a grant from Best Friends to help implement a community cat TNR program. The first step is updating the ordinance. Grant funding will then be used for surgeries and vaccinations of community cats, in addition to building kitten kits for fostering bottle babies. On February 28th, we met with local vets to continue program development and to work further on this process. So what is a community cat program? It's also known as trap, neuter, and release, or trap, neuter, vaccinate, and release. These cats are not owned, but individuals or rescue organizations take responsibility for feeding and providing shelter. Cats are living in the city whether the program is implemented or not. This program helps slow the reproduction of the numbers and control population, along with improving their herd health. A cat typically has 3 to 6 kittens per litter and averages 3 litters a year, though it can have as many as 5. Caretakers are the ones who will trap, transport for surgeries, and then turn around and pick them up from the vet and return them to colony after recovery, which is something that way we don't have to have staff involved in doing that. Updating the provisions for animal care. This essentially is just clarifying standards of care for animals within the city. And it does include requirements for pet shops and kennels have to be licensed with the state. But it's pretty much just standard guide of care, making sure that animals are taken care of and protected in any environment. We have proposed to create an aggressive animal section that mirrors dangerous dog ordinance. This aligns our ordinance with state law, creating aggressive animal, which mirroring that dangerous dog. The dangerous dog is an act against people, whereas what we're defining is an aggressive animal is an act against a person or a restrained animal. State law defines it just as against a person. We are also updating how we will investigate bite cases. Previously, it was written that all bite cases without definition will be investigated. We're proposing to identify that we will focus on investigation of a level 3 and above on a Dunbar bite scale. The Dunbar bite scale is a method of categorizing the severity of a dog bite developed by a world-renowned dog behaviorist and dog trainer, Dr. Ian Dunbar. This scale is used not only by dog trainers and behaviorists, but also by animal welfare experts across the states, including veterinarians and animal control officers, to assess and report dog bites. The scale is based on the severity of the bite, and it also takes into consideration factors based on trauma, skin contact, punctures, and tissue damage. Level 1 is a pre-bite or near bite. Level 2 is a bite that doesn't break the skin. Animal Services will investigate and process bites that fall into the level 3 or above category when skin has been broken.
Cindy, is that the definition of a level 3, skin's broken?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
With aggressive animals, updating that, we do need to have fees, so we have lined those to, again, align with where our dangerous dog registration is. So aggressive animals, dangerous dogs would be the same, and then we have an annual renewal on those. The new sterilization fee that has been noted is strictly if an animal has been impounded and the owner does not reclaim the animal prior to the end of the stray weight, and we send the animal for sterilization once it becomes the property of the city, then the owner comes forward to reclaim the animal after that, they will be responsible for surgery fees. And it's at the cost of fees that we paid the vets.
And is the dangerous dog owner or the aggressive animal owner responsible financially? Can they be sued?
Yes.
Okay.
So on recommendation and next steps? Okay. Staff recommends City Council approve on first reading of Ordinance 2330. And then the next steps are that we're going to meet with the Animal Advisory Board on March 22nd for finalizing language, with a second reading of the ordinance on April 2nd. And then
So over the last week or so, we have met with a couple of members of the Animal Advisory Board, as well as getting feedback from some of our community members, some who spoke this evening. And so we are recommending a couple of modifications to what was presented for the first reading. And so I'd just like to touch on those for the motion before we make that this evening. So in section 333 for the community cat program, we'd like to add in the sentence that says to manage the community cat population effectively and humanely within the city, a community cat program is hereby established. Any rescue or humane organization, and what we want to add there is, or any person who provides care, including food, shelter, or medical care to one or more community cats. So that would be that addition, is willing and intending to undertake the responsibilities of a community cat taker. So it's not just an organization, it could also be an individual, and that individual would register in advance. And that they give us a letter of intention stating their address or location. And then, sorry, most of the rest of them are in the back. Okay. Under the payment of a sterilization fee, under section 345, we're going to add on D, 4D, that the sterilization fee would not be owed if the animal is redeemed prior to the services being provided. Just to clarify that we're not going to force someone to get their animal sterilized if they come to pick it up before we send it for surgery. And then under that same section, under F, we're going to be removing the text space limitations from number 2. So where it says euthanasia of the animal due to health, temperament, space limitations, or other evidence that euthanasia is the appropriate disposition of the animal. And this is in the case where it is fourth impoundment of an animal in a 12-month period, and the municipal court judge would order this. I don't think the municipal court judge would ever order a euthanization due to space limitations, so we want to strike that language from the ordinance. And let's see. And the city attorney has reviewed all of these, and these will be incorporated into the second reading for your review. If you're not comfortable with that, I'm fine if you want to just make the ordinance to pass it as is, and we'll put a summary in for the second reading.
Does it make sense to, I'm not comfortable with that, Jennifer.
Okay.
So, does it make sense to just table it and have you bring it back to us?
Well, you can make the changes on second reading,
All right.
and we'll outline all the changes that we're making.
Because, I mean, I want to see what's written. I'm not sure that I'm comfortable with an individual.
Okay.
You know, if you're going to post, I mean, I get it. You got an association, you got somebody that's responsible. Without somebody posting a bond, something,
There's no requirement for a bond for the, are you talking about for the community cap program?
For an individual, right?
Yes, there's no requirement. They just have to register with us.
I know there's
Yeah.
no requirement. I'm basically saying
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with that.
Okay.
And I'd be more comfortable with somebody posting some kind of, I mean, I want to have time to think about it
Okay.
before we move.
Okay.
Go ahead, Stuart. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. We had several guests speak today about the euthanasia, and I was getting ready to ask the question, how is this, because I read the executive summary, and there was nothing about it about euthanasia. And though you read those amendments, and though it sounded like, what I thought I heard was that you were going to strike the phrase for capacity. I'm kind of befuddled. Is there any reason we couldn't table this and do the first reading next meeting? Is there any?
So, as Cindy mentioned, we already had a litter of 2-week-old kittens brought in from First Colony Mall. Kitten season is upon us, and so we wanted to try to get this in place so that we could start the community cap program in other areas of the city, because there are other colonies. And so that was our motivation for getting first reading completed this evening.
Follow up, please.
Follow.
Okay, so then if we accept and we pass the first reading of this ordinance, then the for capacity phrase will be in the ordinance. And what you're saying is, on the second reading, we'll have amendments?
Yes, so, and that for capacity was only in the case of if a municipal court judge is placing an order on an impounded animal. There's nothing in the ordinance that references euthanization for capacity. The ordinance only allows, after 72 hours for a microchipped animal, or a non-microchipped animal, and 120 hours for a microchipped animal. That animal then becomes the property of the city, and we can dispose of it through adoption, fostering, transferring it out to a rescue, or humane euthanasia. Those are the options. It doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. It just means that we are authorized by law to do that. Our standard operating policies, our euthanasia policy, are what would guide us. And we do not currently euthanize for space. We are not proposing that we would.
Meredith, I want to go ahead and get.
Yes, sir. Just for a little bit of information, this ordinance, it appears that we're rewriting the entire section. That is not the case. Because of the numbering changes and the formatting changes, you are readopting a lot of provisions that are currently in place. With this ordinance before you, you are establishing a couple of extra fees. You're establishing a renewal fee and the aggressive dog fee. You are establishing a community cat program. And then, as Cindy mentioned, you are establishing an aggressive dog program because we are having some difficulty prosecuting under the dangerous dog. All provisions related to euthanasia are currently in place. These are not new provisions.
Mike.
Mayor, if I could just request that the council table the item, because I'm not a fan of having items that the public's not been able to see and comment on and have access to. So if we can do that, I'm not, and then bring it back clean.
Motion to table.
Thank you.
Till the next meeting.
AUB is meeting on the 22nd. I'd love for them to meet, get the language straightened out, and then bring it to us.
Oh, I think that's reasonable. Yeah. Okay, so I've got Carol, do you want to?
Yes, I just wanted to thank everybody who came to speak tonight. And yes, there was quite a bit of, I guess, concern with the AAB board at the March 8th meeting because, you know, the ordinance was briefly discussed under review of and discussion on animal shelter and community engagement program updates. And so, yes, the board did ask if it could be tabled or if at least section 3.33 establishing the community CAP program could be approved, and then the rest tabled because they are, I said, having the meeting Friday at noon, and so to discuss proposed ordinance 2330 and make a recommendation to City Council. So I would encourage everyone who spoke tonight, if possible, to please come to the meeting on Friday, because there was a lot of concern, particularly with respect to the euthanasia policies. And I would like to say a special shout out to Andrew for coming to speak, and I thought that was a great idea he had about high school students being able to foster. And when the AAB looks at this on Friday, I guess I know that Jennifer's already said something that will be discussed, but Jennifer, could you repeat what you said? So an animal will not be forced to be neutered without owner permission. Is that what you said?
Yes, so one of the provisions that one of the board members brought is in the section relating to impoundment of animals, where we're adding the sterilization fee. There was a concern that we would charge the fee and force the sterilization of the animal if the owner tried to reclaim the animal before the surgery had been performed. So what we were recommending is to add a statement that said, we're not going to make you pay the fee if you reclaim the animal before we send it for surgery, which generally, depending on the health of the animal, is after the stray weight is over. We try to get them in at the next available appointment.
Yeah. Okay, because that's good, because I mean, somebody may have spent thousands of dollars on an animal that's a champion hunter or a champion show dog or something, and they have not neutered the animal with the intent to breed it. And there's always the situation: you hire somebody to do your lawn care, they are supposed to close the gate, and situation, the lawn care company forgets to close the gate, and the owner is like on the phone or has something, the oven going off, the timer, something happening, and the dog suddenly barks, got to go outside to go to the bathroom, so the owner runs, opens the door, and then the dog, boom, escapes and it's gone. So yeah, it would be really unfortunate with a one-time escapee to be neutered like that, because I think it's important to treat, like I said, a one-time accidental escapee of a beloved family member differently from a stray dog that's been abandoned and living out on the streets. And similarly, if a relative has passed away and then someone in Sugar Land, inherits the dog, if you will, and it's an older dog, and it, sometimes dogs are just too old to potentially survive the anesthesia of a sterilization. And so that's very good that you're doing that. And yeah, and so also on section 345D4C, they talk about that the animal can, it talks about the owner provides a letter from a licensed veterinarian certifying the animal should not be spayed or neutered for health reasons. I'd like to strike the language, I'd like the AAB board consider striking the language.
Point of order, Carol. Yeah. Staff's been directed now to go back and look at it. Let's not edit it from the council dais. Let's have staff, you can give your comments to staff. And,
okay,
and
so I can submit my comments to staff then. I'll just do that.
I'm going to call the question.
Okay.
So we've got a motion to table. We've got a second.
Okay.
I'm going to call the vote. If you'll vote at this time, please. It's a motion to table. To be clear, this is a motion to table. We've got a motion to table, no action. It's tabled. We've got a motion, we've got a second. That's the motion and the second on the table. Vote, and we'll do a hand vote.
We'll do a hand vote.
All in favor? Okay, and it passes 7-0. We're going to move on now to item 5E, consideration of and action on City of Sugar Land Resolution Number 2410, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Sugar Land, Texas, establishing a legislative citizen task force and the roles and responsibilities of the task force. Rick Ramirez, our Intergovernmental Relations Manager. Rick.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thank you for sticking it out this long. I'm going to be talking to you about the community engagement portion of the legislative agenda development process, which is the development of the Legislative Citizen Task Force. I will talk a little bit about our legislative agenda development process. We'll talk about the Legislative Task Force membership, talk about roles and responsibilities, and I'll give you some next steps. So as you know, the state legislature operates on a biennial calendar, and so therefore the development of our legislative agenda is also on a biennial calendar as well. On the even numbered years, starting in April and ending around October, we are in development of the legislative agenda, and then starting in the odd number years in January and ending in May, we have the regular legislative session, which is about 140 days. As you know, there can be 30-day special sessions called at any time, and during this time is when you would see interim charges being heard at the legislature. So part of the road to getting us to the implementation of our legislative agenda is currently we're in the community and business considerations portion. That's when we speak with all of our departments to talk about things that worked or didn't work during the last legislative session and how we can improve our legislative agenda. We are currently talking to y'all today about the development of the Legislative Task Force, which is the community engagement portion of our legislative agenda. The IG Committee is the three-person committee from City Council that is responsible for the development of the legislative agenda, and then eventually City Council will adopt a legislative agenda, and then starting in November and through the end of May of next year, we'll do the implementation of our legislative priorities. So the Legislative Task Force will be a 13-member task force that represents diverse backgrounds and interests. We'll have people representing local businesses, homeowners, boards and commissions, Sugar Land 101, a person from our HOAs. We'll also this year be adding a few extra interests as well. We'll have somebody from Fort Bend County, somebody from Fort Bend ISD, and Lamar Consolidated ISD to help with taking a look at our legislative priorities. This gives us a more well-rounded approach to being able to figure out how our legislative agenda might impact our community and region as a whole. We do have an exception to the policy 3000-09 to allow local businesses to serve on the legislative task force. I'll give you outlook on the roles and responsibilities. The Legislative Task Force, or the LTF, will review the current legislative position statements and provide their feedback. They'll provide a unique community perspective through discussions with our task force members, our city staff, city partners, and other experts that we bring in. They'll make recommendations on the state legislative agenda to City Council for consideration. Please keep in mind, though, that the final adoption is from City Council, and that's going to be your decision on what you would like to see on your legislative agenda. They'll serve as advocates for the community during the legislative session, and we saw that happen last legislative session where me and the mayor went up to the Capitol with members from our legislative task force to advocate on issues that were important to us. And then they will also attend monthly meetings during the legislative session to receive legislative updates and provide feedback on legislative issues. Our next steps tonight, we're hoping that you'll adopt the resolution to create the Legislative Task Force. The application will be open tomorrow and will end April 10th. June 4th is when City Council will appoint the Legislative Task Force, and then through the summer we'll be doing sessions with the LTF. So with that, I recommend approval of Resolution 2410, establishing the Legislative Task Force for next session. And I'll take any questions.
Questions? Any? Got a motion by Watley, second by McCutcheon. Vote this time, please. And it passed 7-0. Thank you, council members. Item number 7, City Council City Manager reports. 7A, council member reports. Suzanne, start with you.
I knew you were going to do that. Okay, we all did a lot of stuff, so I'm only going to go with one. Y'all better pick up the things I missed, okay? On March the 7th, the First State Bank of Louise Sugarland opened their doors for business. I think they've been open, but it was their formal opening, and it was so cool to see my hometown bring business to my district and celebrate them. They've been around since 1956. They broke ground in Louise. I think this is their 36th bank to open. So congratulations, First State Bank.
Carol.
I attended Zumba for a Cause at Aileen's, benefiting the Fort Bend Women's Center, and that was a lot of fun and my first time to do Zumba. And I gave remarks at the Fort Bend Chambers ribbon cutting for Salad Works and Fruitables in Riverstone. And I'd like to thank Councilmember Kermali for hosting the iftar dinner at Michaelachi.
Stuart.
No report, Mayor.
Jennifer.
No report, Mayor.
William.
I have a lot to say, but no report.
Michelle.
I'll keep it short and sweet. It is the month of Ramadan, as Muslims get together and celebrate the month of Ramadan and fast all day. You heard some earlier, but I just wanted to wish all my brothers and sisters Ramadan Mubarak. And also, it's the Persian New Year, and Reeby's, the management company of this beautiful area, has got a beautiful display that says Happy Nowruz or Nowruz Mubarak, which is Happy New Year. Please go out and take pictures in front of it. It's a beautiful display. That's it, Mayor.
Thank you, Sean. We've got April 2nd. We're going to open the Sugarland Space Cowboys. There we go. Let's put a plug in for Orion. He was here tonight. I attended TML mid-year. I thought it was fairly well done. Of course, the timing wasn't great at the last weekend of spring break. Attendance was a little bit light. They covered things like water, transportation, and the dependency of the power grid. We also heard from Kel Seliger, former Texas senator, who basically said good luck during the next legislative session because it's going to be a brawl. So that's all my report. Item B, Mike, City Manager report.
No report, Mayor.
Here. Got a motion to adjourn at 7:28. Stuart, what do you want to do?